I'm sharing a reading experience. I'm reading from Gone and I'm sharing it with you now. Today I will go from January 13th to the 19th. I hope you listen and receive something worthwhile from this. This video might inspire you to read this book. It's my hope that you'll search from the best books and gain information and ideas to help you to become a better person. The more you read, the better you'll think. And the better you think, the more you'll be able to face life's challenges successfully. January 13th. Tomorrow is another day. Anna's first husband, David, died, and then she married George Day. Grandma Anna Puckett Day came to see us often, and we had so much fun hearing her stories and debating with her. She made us think. I'm so grateful that Papa, Mama, and Grandma taught me so much about life. So many people have problems appearing so unsolvable. I saw Papa and Mama go through many setbacks in life, and eventually I saw how they handled old age and the joys they had in their last days. What good parents we had. Mama taught us how to play baseball, and she jumped rope with us too. We children slid off the sheds into the hay. What fun we had. January 14th. When Anna said, "My father," it was with deep admiration. I think she got her business sense from him. No one ever put anything over on Grandma. Grandma Anna Puckett Day lived over in Kootenai for about 25 years. Her neighbor and best friend, Mabel Calvert, told me, "Your grandma was smart. She got on very little and was a good manager and could really bake good bread." I once went to a town meeting with Grandma when she went to bat for Mrs. McLeod when some of the townsfolk wanted to get rid of her goats. Every day at 5 p.m., you could hear the goat bells as Mrs. McLeod was herding them home. She kept her stalls clean, so that wasn't the issue. Mrs. McLeod was also an accomplished pianist. Grandma spoke up and said, "Which one of you have not gone to Mrs. McLeod for milk? And did she ever refuse you or charge you?" No one answered her. Mrs. McLeod got to keep her goats. January 15th. Grandma Sarah Jane was a mountain doctor that brought many children into the world. She never lost a child. She was never afraid to go where sickness was. During a diphtheria epidemic, she knew how to make air passages and saved many lives. She met my grandfather Alan during the Civil War era. She was attending to the sick and wounded even back then. Sarah's son, Papa, went along on calls to doctor people. Surprisingly, Papa never had any childhood diseases like mumps, measles, and so forth. Alan was smitten by Sarah Jane, fell in love, and wed. When Alan died, Sarah Jane lived with our family until she died at the age of 78. When Linville was born with a life threatening condition, she was the one that saved his life. Linville was a chubby baby with a round, fat face. Linville soon grew into a hyper and mischievous boy. When I was 16, Sarah Jane was no longer around to take care of me, but there were others. When I contracted pneumonia, Lou Hunter sent over some Watkins Mustard Roll, and Grandma Anna Day made some cough syrup of onions and honey and told my mama, "Now, Flossie, I want you to give Dorothy one tablespoon every few hours." Mama loved all of her in-laws and said they were kind people. good homemakers, and steady workers. Alan taught his family all the skills of survival and providing a home for their families. Alan farmed and picked cotton, helped others farm, hunted, fished, and was a general handyman. It was said of Alan's sons, if Jacob and Alex were put in the middle of the wilderness, they would make a go of it. One thing Alan refused to do was work in the coal mines because he was convinced it caused health problems. Alan's mother had died when Alan was only 9 years old, so Alan's father taught them much. The skills that Alan taught were handed down to my papa. Papa's main tools were his axe, hammer, saw, and cobbler's-last to mend shoes. He was very good at making tool handles, hinges, and knew everything there was to know about renovating buildings into livable spaces. He had a travel bag that contained his Bible, shaving mug and razor, Cuticura soap, and extra clothes. He was always ready to go at the drop of a hat. January 16th. Dad's great grandfather, Asbury Rosal, was in the Civil War but contracted dysentery, wearing down his health for the rest of his life. When my papa's father, Alan, was in the Civil War, he contracted some health problems that he would carry for the rest of his life. I believe his life was cut short because of that. Grandma Sarah Jane received a $30 per month Civil War survivor's pension, which she used to help bring her, Papa, Uncle Alex, and Aunt Mary Jane out west. After they all had contracted malaria one year, Papa begged Grandpa Allen to go west, but Allen wouldn't give up his homestead. When Grandpa Allen died, Papa first headed to Columbus, Kansas, but ended up in Dunning, Nebraska, working for the railroad where he married Mama. Some of the family that stayed behind on Grandpa Allen's farm did not fare so well. In 1937, Papa told us about his brother's daughter at 15 years of age. She disappeared and was never found. January 17th. This morning at 5:30 a.m., the lights flickered and went out. Luckily, Papa was always telling us, nowhere to get your possessions in the dark. It was pitch dark. I looked out the window and the street lights were all out. I was relieved that it was a widespread outage rather than just my house. I got a flashlight off the refrigerator and continued my work. Brian had given me this big rechargeable flashlight as a Christmas gift, and it came in very handy this morning. January 18th. Mr. Kitchen was a tall and slender communist that came door to door before World War II to preach the Communist Party. While Papa was building onto our little red house, Mr. Kitchen told Papa that if he joined the party, that he and his family would never want for a thing. I didn't know what he meant because I knew we had everything we needed. Maybe not everything we wanted, but all that we needed. Mr. Kitchen wanted to leave some pamphlets, but Papa told him, we don't need them. We had our Sunday cups, which were Federal condensed milk cans and with the tops knocked off. Mama just got them red hot on the stove and then knocked the tops off with a knife. Those cans also made perfect biscuit and cookie cutters. We made do with what we had and were perfectly happy the way things were. January 19th. Back in the olden days, women used to wear big, full skirts to do their housework. They generally wore cotton in the summer and wool in the winter. When Sarah Jane's oldest daughter, Melinda, was working around her stove at her own house fixing a meal for her three children, she caught fire, panicked, and ran to the creek rather than dropping and rolling. She lay in agony for 3 days. The local doctor came and prescribed something to her. It was expensive, about $5. Her husband, Aaron, went off to buy this medicine, but on the way walked into a drinking establishment and spent all his money. Aaron was a drunkard. It was sad when Melinda lay dying. Sarah Jane could not reach her in time. As soon as they heard the news, they hitched up the wagon, but before they could get there, the wagon became stuck in mud. By the time they got to Melinda's house, she was dead. I'm influenced by what I hear, see, and read. I take it in, I mix it around a bit, I spew some of it back out. Sometimes I add chocolate sauce with a cherry on top. This book is the same. I read it, but I might come up with more of a conclusion than you might. It's my suggestion that if you find this material interesting, you'll read it for yourself to see if you focus in on the same things. I bet that you'll see slightly different things, if not altogether different. I wish you the best in your happy readings. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, aloha.